Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our PolitcGal segment brought to us by Reverse Securities, we are featuring Kash Patel. Now, Kash served as the former Chief of Staff to Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller under President Donald Trump. Previously, Kash served as the Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council. He oversaw the execution of several of President Donald Trump's top priorities. He joins me today to help me make sense of the Mar-a-Lago fiasco, and will the DOJ's fishing expedition into Trump really go anywhere? Now, at the center of it all is this affidavit. It has become the major flashpoint in this criminal probe, and this has been going on for a few weeks now. Back in August 8th, if you remember, FBI agents executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago estate, carting away dozens of boxes containing what they've characterized as highly classified national secrets. So this affidavit provides the most comprehensive rationale for why the government pushed to search Trump's property and what the investigative steps it took beforehand. It would show whom the justice officials had interviewed, what they believed was potentially on the premises, and why they assessed there was probable cause that crimes had been committed. This all sounds like a one big, huge conspiracy theory, but the Justice Department opposed releasing the document from get. Making the affidavit public could chill potential witnesses, risk the safety of those already interviewed, and reveal future investigative steps. While news organizations pushed for its disclosure, citing public interest, and of course you can see why, in this case stemming from Trump's possession of classified documents. There's so much going back and forth, but here to make sense of it all and give me some insight is the awesome Kash Patel. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Zen, it's great to be on with a fellow New Yorker. I'm glad we're bringing conservative values in America first back to New York and my hometown of Strong Island. So this is fun.
I love it. Okay, so I couldn't be more excited to have you on. What's going on here, Kash? What was this raid really about? And will they ever release an unredacted affidavit, in your opinion?
No. And here's the look, probably more relevant to your audience than the titles I had for President Trump were the fact that I was a national security prosecutor for a number of years in multiple administrations and an intel guy before that. And I did these types of warrants, these types of prosecutions. And as a public defender before that, I challenged these types of search warrants. And here's what's going to happen. All roads lead back to Russiagate. And I may be biased because I was a chief Russiagate investigator for Devin Nunes when he exposed the Nunes memo and all that other corruption. But I mean it. And the media isn't listening. Basically, it's the same crew at the FBI and the counterintelligence division that ran Russiagate against Trump unlawfully, ran Hillary Clinton's email investigation, ran the Hunter Biden laptop scheme, ran January 6th, ran the Whitmer prosecution. The same agents, literally, I'm not making this up, are running the counterintelligence division for the Mar-a-Lago raid. Why do I bring that up? Devin and I always made a big deal of transparency when we were doing Russiagate. And we've always said, we only got 60% of the documents out. The worst 40% has been marred in bureaucratic gymnastics and people trying to block government corruption. So as bad as you thought it is 10 times worse. And they raided Mar-a-Lago to prevent the release of those and other documents that President Trump promised transparency on. And it's a fight worth having. And I'm telling you, all roads lead back to Russiagate. I couldn't encourage your audience more to watch The Plot Against the President. If they don't know what I'm talking about, they need to get re-educated. It's the best documentary out there. President Trump just truthed about it again. It's shocking to me how many people, even on our side, don't know the basic facts of Russiagate.
It's interesting because if you go back, I mean, yes, Russiagate, you recently told Newsmax that Trump's raid is likely linked to the Russia probe, and I 100% wholeheartedly agree. And then we have David Ignatius's opinion piece for the Washington Post says, and quote, you're Trump's point man in his battle against the deep state. And he said that you have emerged as a chief public exponent of Trump's claim that he could declassify information, including highly sensitive Russia probe material at will. So the question is here, the other 40% of that material that we want to get our hands on, will we truly be able to see that transparently?
Not during this Congress, and not until the gavel switches, we say, in the majority flips. Look, when we ran Russiagate, now America has learned the power of Congress and being in the majority. Devin and I were in the majority, and we still had to fight our tails off just to get the release of the documents out because the deep state didn't want to show their own corruption. But it's possible. And once the gavels flip and we have leaders like Jim Jordan and company on judiciary, you're going to run these investigations like we ran Russiagate. Here's what you do. You send out subpoenas to every person, every director, every head of every agency, Chris Wray, Merrick Garland, the CIA, the State Department, everybody, and you have them testify publicly. But more important than that is you subpoena all the documents, and they'll say this: oh, we can't give them to you. There's an open counterintelligence investigation on this matter. The same tactic they ran back in Russiagate by ginning up a faulty investigation of Trump is why they raided Mar-a-Lago, because now they're able to say, and I know this as a former federal prosecutor, open investigation, we don't have to turn over everything. And do you know how you get them to turn over everything? You take their money. We did it for Russiagate, and 1,200 documents showed up the next day.
That's unbelievable. So here's what I don't understand. So back in May, Trump voluntarily accepted a grand jury subpoena for his office's record keeper, seeking documents with classified markings. And he then invited the FBI to come to Mar-a-Lago to retrieve them. And on June 3rd, top DOJ counterintelligence official Jay Bratt came to Mar-a-Lago with 3 other agents, and Trump greeted them in the dining room. Trump then left the agents with Trump's record keeper and counsel, adding that whatever you need, just let us know. So once back in the dining room, one of the FBI agents said, thank you. You didn't need to show us the storage room, but we do appreciate it. Now it all makes sense. So counsel for President Trump then closed the interaction and advised the government officials that they should contact him with any further needs on the matter. So this is quite perplexing. If you do your research and you don't necessarily read the headlines, why did this raid take place if they were all, in agreement that whatever you need, we will cooperate with? That's what I don't understand.
The FBI and DOJ were never in agreement, and Jay Bratt is a partisan, just like John Carlin, his boss, and Lisa Monaco. These are the same officials that ran Russiagate, right? The same crew at DOJ. And what about the agents that were down there? We'll find out their names, and I bet you same FBI agents from the counterintel under Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and company, you're going to find these guys got promoted and just kept working these matters. It's a ruse that the FBI is saying, oh, we, the FBI and DOJ, were cooperative. They say that so they can publicly put out, oh, we were nice to Donald Trump. That's not how you run these cases. I used to run them. You pretend when you have a target of an investigation to be their friend so you can play the media card and say, we were nice. They've been planning this raid for months. It does not happen overnight. The necessary approvals, and Merrick Garland told us so, the AG himself had to personally authorize this. And there's a flat out lie that they have been perpetuating that the White House did not know. The White House counsel's office for sure knew this raid was happening. And I think you're going to see media soon that shows the White House's lies. Then that even they told President Biden, because there had to be a waiver of executive privilege to get the documents that we now know are seized that are protected under the law. So the FBI is just setting up epithets to sling in the fake news media to say we did everything the right way. They didn't. The only person that was cooperative was Donald Trump and his attorneys. And they took advantage of that like they normally do when the target is President Trump.
It's interesting, Kash, because the only thing we see in all of this is the extent of government corruption. And right now you have the public outcry. First of all, everyone wants, they're massively against the DOJ right now. And in some respects, this does help Trump. A lot of the public is really upset at what just transpired. But Trump filed a lawsuit asking a federal judge to appoint a special watchdog to review the documents seized. And his lawsuit also asks the judge to block the Department of Justice from further review of seized materials until the so-called special master is appointed to review those documents. The raid, a shockingly aggressive move, in my opinion, which really accounts to Trump as kind of everything he's ever said about conspiracy and deep state is almost kind of, coming to fruition in its own way. But at this point right now, it feels like, in your humble opinion, is law enforcement in this case being used as a weapon for political purposes?
Yeah, and it never stopped when the target was President Trump. We showed the world when we ran Russiagate that just think about it. In America, in modern history, we proved that the FBI went into bed with the political party, the DNC, took in millions of dollars and fake intelligence and hijacked the law enforcement and intel community and went to a secret judge that I used to go to hunt down terrorists as a national security prosecutor to illegally surveil a presidential campaign. That's what they did. We proved it. Nobody believed us back then. The DOJ Inspector General came in and said, oh, actually, wait, you guys were right. Fast forward. This is why I say it's connected to Russiagate. The same corrupt crew is working these matters, and you hit it right on the head. That's the problem. It's not the 99% that are in FBI and DOJ that I used to work with. It's the corrupt leadership. They're back from that time. The Comey descendants and disciples, the John Carlins of the world, who used to be my boss at DOJ, is the number 3. Lisa Monaco, Trump hater, number 2. Merrick Garland. Chris Wray has always blocked for the left-wing media just so he can keep his job. And on his watch, corrupt FBI officials have continued the unlawful and unethical investigation into President Trump. That's what this raid is going to show, but we're going to need Congress's help to get the documents out. This judge is a magistrate judge. He has no authority. His decisions will be appealed, and he will not allow the the affidavit to come out. He will allow DOJ to wave the win in the public by saying, oh, we're going to redact it, and you're going to see a page full of black magic marker.
Yep, because this magistrate, Judge Bruce Reinhart, said that he was inclined, to your point, to unseal some of the affidavits central to this FBI search, but that it would, in fact, be so heavily redacted that releasing it would be meaningless. So, the point is, then what's the point of even releasing it if we're just going to, see a whole bunch of, strikes and black markers, right?
The point is DOJ has done this before, Russiagate. They said, oh, yeah, we're going to turn over all these documents to the House Intelligence Committee, to Kash and Devin. We got all these documents, 98% redacted. So they get the media headline, we're being cooperative, we're being transparent. But the fake news media will allow their lies to be perpetuated, and we have to call them out. I don't want a 98% redacted document. I don't want a 50% redacted document. We're not going to see that affidavit anytime soon, but we should fight for it, or Trump should fight for it in court and educate the public on when the corruption is finally exposed, who asked for the document unredacted, who withheld it, and what agents at the FBI and DOJ allowed these redactions. The same people that took the black magic marker and outlined the corruption in Russiagate are doing the editing right now.
Yeah, those are some great questions to ask oneself. It's just those are the right questions to be asking as a forward thinker here, and not part of the liberal, biased media. But in my humble opinion, so to speak, to be clear, this search on the face of it represented a relatively unimportant scuffle between a minor government agency, the National Archives, trying to enforce a point of principle, and the Trump team in Florida, likely more disorganized, in my opinion, than unwilling, so to speak. But this has gone too far. And even this judge, this magistrate, said that this raid was unprecedented. And if you do read a lot of the articles and the statements that even this magistrate has made, he's kind of, trying to look under the hood and asking himself, like, what's really going on here? Because even at their level, Kash, they don't know what you know, right? So this is a lot of perplexing stuff to be part of as an American, and it doesn't make me feel any more comfortable.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, the judge is in on it. I don't care what anyone says. The judge knew what he was doing, knew he was authorizing the raid of a former president of the United States to get documents such as attorney-client privilege and executive privilege documents, Trump's passports, and other things from Melania's closet, of all places. This is an overly broad search warrant. That's what the Fourth Amendment protects against. And there needs to be a public hearing on why this judge authorized it. He is as political as the people that he is working with at DOJ and FBI. And it needs to be exposed. And that's why there needs to be reforms, not just in the judiciary, but mostly at FBI and DOJ on how they go about obtaining these warrants when the target is political. Because all the rules get thrown out. Hunter Biden's laptop run totally differently than this one. Hillary Clinton emailgate, totally differently. Peter Strzok's on the media claiming, oh, it was an in-depth investigation of Hillary. No, it wasn't. You guys invited her over for coffee and tea, literally, with people who are conflicted out of the case to say, what should we do? Nothing. And of course, we know she actually possessed and sent classified information. And to that point, the president of the United States is the sole arbiter of classification authority. Me, as the former deputy director of national intelligence, can tell you that affirmatively. That is a fact. Anyone arguing there's process and procedure in place is arguing against reality, because all they know is that's a true statement. And if President Trump declassified it like he did in October, like he did in January, like he did in December, then it's incumbent upon the government to say, wait a second, where's the proof that did not occur? Because the burden is on the government.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Well, we are out of time. That was definitely a very enlightening interview. Thank you so much for your plethora of information, your deep knowledge in this, and more importantly, for keeping it real with our listeners. Kash, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks so much, Zen.
Guys, you definitely have to check out Kash Patel on Truth Social. He's at Kash, fightwithkash.com. And you definitely have to check out his book, theplotagainsttheking.com. It is a children's book, currently #1 best-selling book in America. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. That was our PolitcGal segment brought to us by Revere Securities. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to our PolitcGal segment is the awesome Kash Patel. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me, Zen. Love being on the program.
All right, great. Loved our conversation earlier. Let's pick it up with, what are your predictions? Do you think Trump runs again, and will an announcement come before the November elections?
Look, as often as I talk to the president, and I used to work for him as one of his top aides, I've learned a couple of things. One, Trump does stuff on Trump time. So if I make a prediction, I'll probably get it wrong. But I think the one thing I can say definitively is that should he decide to pull the trigger, it's because of the following. And he said it publicly. He's like, I hate the direction our country's going in. He can't stand it. He doesn't, it's not that he wants to be president again or anything like that, but look at around at our border, at our crisis overseas, at our falling on the global stage and the economy and whatever, everything can go on and on. So yes, I do believe that's what he wants to do. I think the timing will just depend on, like it usually does in Trump time.
In Trump time. That's a good answer. Okay, so if you look at the overall picture, one would say, even for those that never agreed, that it does feel like there's something going on with the deep state, quote unquote, and with this witch hunt. I mean, the House January 6th committee and the DOJ continue to investigate Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election and incitement of the deadly U.S. Capitol attack. So that's there. Trump is also under investigation in New York over his business and tax affairs, and in Georgia regarding attempts to overturn his defeat by Joe Biden. Also, it was confirmed that Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, who became Trump's personal attorney, is the target of a criminal investigation, again, back in Georgia, over his role in the attempt to overturn the election. Then you have a judge ruled that Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally and Republican senator from South Carolina, could not avoid testifying in the Georgia investigation. There is a lot of focus on Donald Trump, all around one man, and now it's permeating into the GOP, the Republican Party. What are your thoughts on this?
Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's what the radical left and the media do. It's Russiagate, it's Hillarygate, it's Hunter Biden, it's Jan 6, it's impeachment 1, impeachment 2, and now it's the Mar-a-Lago raid, and they'll come up with something else afterwards. They come in with their fake story. They hijack the intel and law enforcement communities. They launch a bogus investigation to try to drive Trump out of office, which is always the end goal. Then a proper investigation reveals the truth. They race past it and go to Hollywood to Hollywoodize whatever they're trying to do. And then they create the next scandal. Is anyone even talking about Jan 6th anymore? And I was the first guy subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. Costed me $200,000 to adjudicate that subpoena. I had no problem going in there and telling them the truth. And we put all the documents out. And that's what I want your viewers to key in on. All of our documents go out for free, not ours. The government documents we find are on fightwithkash.com. From Jan 6, from Durham stuff, from Russiagate, from Biden, from the laptop, everything is for free. That's part of the mission, is to educate the American public with the government's own documents. And we destroyed the January 6th fake headline that President Trump didn't act. He acted early. He authorized National Guard 2 days before. He followed the law, and Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Bowser refused that security assistance. And that's why me as chief of staff and the SecDef did not have the National Guard there at the ready on January 6th, because the law prohibited it, because they denied our request.
That's some insight. That's definitely some insight there. Okay, moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted. I hear you have a #1 best-selling book. You are an author. Congratulations. It's called theplotagainsttheking.com. Tell me about this book, and more importantly, Why a children's book?
So, as the Russiagate guy for Devin, we thought we had educated the world on it through things like The Plot Against the President, Lee Smith's amazing book, and Amanda Milius's great documentary. But my publicist was like, hey, what about the kids? And I'm like, what about them? Honestly, I wasn't even thinking at that level. And she was like, well, we need to educate our children on something that's not CRT and gender dynamics at 6. So we found this amazing company down in Texas, Brave Books, and we put on an education platform and we created The Plot Against the King. So The Plot Against the King is Russiagate for kids, it's Russiagate for adults, and apparently on Truth Social, it's Russiagate for pets. Everybody's loving it. The pictures are amazing, but it's not a political book. It's not be Republican, be conservative, be Democrat, be liberal. It's teaching our children the importance of the truth and serving in government by using what happened in history to educate them. And so this book did so well, we're now doing a trilogy, and we're about to announce the sequel to The Plot Against the King, sticking with that educating our youth timeline. And look, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and I, for one, am with the folks at Brave Books who say we need to educate our children about what's going on in America with our constitutional values. And our goal, we're going to put one of these books in every school across America. So go to theplotagainsttheking.com and grab your copy and join the fun.
Oh, I love it. So I know you're also very active with giving back. I know you believe in balancing that out. You have an active nonprofit. So I also want to take my hat off to you for that, because you are definitely making sure that you have balanced it all, bringing truth, helping others, and of course, keeping it real. Thank you so much for coming on, Kash. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks so much, Jen. Hope to be back soon.
Oh, you will. Guys, you have to definitely check him out on Truth Social at Kash. Head to fightwithkash.com and check out this awesome children's book, The Plot Against the King.com, but not just for children, definitely cool reading for adults as well. That was our PolitcGal segment brought to us by Revere Securities, and that was Kash Patel. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.